There are as many styles of music and faith communities as there are people. Music can move us beyond emotional and spiritual pain to bring a new sense of peace. We can be moved to tears when we least expect it. Musicians are thought of as only performers, but what happens when music and faith come together for the musician? With us today are three musicians, Allegra Montanari, Dr. Barry Wenger, and Ross Floyd. Allegra is a cellist and the director of Musicians in Action. Barry is the principal organist at First United Methodist Church, Chicago Temple, and a private studio teacher of piano, organ, and harpsichord. Ross is Barry's piano student and attends Jones College Prep in Chicago. Welcome to the three of you. It's good to have all of you here with us today.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Allegra, as a cellist, you have studied many, many years. How is it that you came to fall in love with the cello and music? What's your journey?
Well, my mom loved playing piano. She played in middle school and just absolutely loved the instrument. So it was something she started my sister and I on about the age of 5. But there was a little kind of instrument petting zoo that the middle school orchestra director brought around to the 5th grade. And so I got the chance to try, everything from piccolo to tuba to bass and harp. But when I got to the cello, I was done. I just knew, you can come across this sound, and it spoke to me, and it's been my voice ever since. So.
Well, speaking as a voice, with Musicians in Action, that voice of the cello and other musicians really touches people's lives in a special, special way. Tell us about Musicians in Action.
Musicians in Action is a program I started a year ago. I was finishing my master's at Roosevelt University and kind of just getting frustrated and a little acutely aware of the narrow-minded focus that performance majors have to have. Going into a music business is extremely competitive, and you can get a little disheartened and lose sight of why we fell in love with that voice to begin with. So I started a program that brings musicians, mostly student musicians, to play for hospitals. We visit the La Rabida Children's Hospital on the south side, where we play for kids anywhere from the age of 3 to 18. It really just depends on who shows up that day. Play things like hokey pokey, and you have little kids who are just kicking out of their seats, and you're worried, oh, don't fall out, don't fall out. But the nurses are like, no, they love it, it's perfect. And then we also visit cancer patients, visitors, and staff at 3 floors of the Prentice Women's Hospital. And we play soothing music like the Bach I play, or uplifting music to help kind of distract people from the pain and suffering that cancer brings. So it's really been a very rewarding experience, both for the people in the hospitals, for the students that we work with. It's just amazing. About 50 different volunteers and almost 20 events. So I'm very happy to be helping this work.
That's such important work, absolutely. Barry, you are at Chicago Temple organist, teacher, lecturer, and I have heard you play at some recitals and just been moved so deeply. What is it you love about music? How did you get started?
Well, music just has that wonderful transforming quality about it, and that's what I think started me to play piano. I grew up with a piano in the house, and my parents had gotten my older brother started on piano lessons, but he quit at one point, and then I started to play, and I got started with piano. And from piano on to organ to harpsichord, I've just loved all of it and loved the transforming quality of it, to transform myself, but also the quality it has to be able to transform others. And so that's why I love playing. Your
students, you were saying, are age 5 through 60-ish?
60-ish. I won't go any higher than that. But no, I've taught an 80-year-old before too, and it was a lot of fun. But I teach from young students all the way on up, and I just really enjoy it and love it because it's so much fun to see the joy that I find in music, or even the lament or other things that we find in music, to see young children start to learn that and learn how they can find their voice, just like Allegra was saying, in music, as well as adults, and adults finding their voice in music. Because sometimes adults have put it away, they've gone into professional careers otherwise, and now they're coming back to it in a different way, and they're looking for something new and something creative.
As a church musician, you are a person of faith. So how does music and faith come together in your life?
To me, music is one of those gifts that we receive from God. It's a talent that we are given, and I really believe that we have to be good stewards of that. And so to do that, we have to give it back. And it's giving it to ourselves, but it's also giving it to a greater audience, and whether it's to a church congregation or whether it's to your family or playing in the hospitals, that we have to be good stewards and give that gift back. Nurture that gift, and practice and work hard and give it back.
Thinking of practicing and working hard, here right next to you is Ross. You are a student of Barry's. How did you get started in piano and music?
Well, it was my 7th grade year, and my birthday was coming up. And we had a piano in my house, but I had never played on it or even probably touched it. And my grandma, who had played piano her entire life, got me, my gift for that year from her was piano lessons. And for my entire first year of piano, she paid for it. And I just fell in love with piano, just the noise that you can make and how it can touch you in so many different ways and how it can touch others. I just completely fell in love with it.
And I hear from all of you about just falling in love with music. That just touches my heart. You, as a sophomore, must have a lot of stress. You play tennis, you're president of the Social Justice Club and speak Spanish. So how do you fit piano and music into your life as a very busy high school student, and why do you keep piano as important?
Well, this has probably been my most stressful year ever. I have tests almost every day, it seems, homework assignments, clubs and games. And it seems to me if I'm having a particularly stressful day and I come home and I just have a million things on my head and I can't think of one thing clearly, if I just take 30 minutes or an hour just out of my time and I sit down at the piano and I just play a song, that song can relieve all the stress I'm having and just make it almost all disappear. And it's just me and the piano. And every note that I hear, every melody, or if I'm on my iPod, I'm just listening to a song, all those notes and words, they fit almost every emotion you're having. And even emotions you don't understand or you don't know you're having, they can bring it up and they can help resolve it and just make it so you can continue on with the rest of your activities. So it's not a separate hobby, but it almost makes the rest of my hobbies possible.
Yeah. And you've grown up in the church with your mother as a pastor. You've sung a lot of church music, and you're around music all the time. So how does music help you in your faith as a sophomore? You're facing an awful lot right now.
Yeah. Well, like you said, I've been in the church since probably 5 years old, since I could walk or talk, and just been sitting in the pews listening to the sermons from my mother and other pastors. And when I was younger, I didn't always understand what the sermons were trying to say or what even God meant. But when the pianist or organist would play a song and I would hear the music and the words and just the energy that I was feeling in the room, I could truly understand what was being said through that entire message just by the notes and the words. And I feel that's true for everyone in the sermon, in the service. And no matter what ethnicity you are, what language you speak, anything, you can understand the music and the energy in the room. That's universal. And I think for today, the music almost, even though that I understand at least a little bit the messages that are being said, the music is still an important part because it so reminds me of the universalness of religion and what it has to offer us.
Yeah. I'm also a student of yours, as all of you know. And as you were thinking about relating and the music that helps you grow, in my own life, I grew up with piano, college student, music degree, and then there was a time in my life where, of course, children and so many other things, I set that aside. But as I've come back to lessons with you, I've really sensed myself growing, through that music and being a student of yours. I have to say, I love coming to lessons.
Great.
It's a lot of fun. And it makes me practice more. It makes me practice more. Yeah.
That's one of the great things about lessons, and I've found that in my own life too, and I would think Allegra has as well, is that getting ready for a lesson helps you have that goal and have that next step. So lessons are just such a wonderful way for people to experience that growth, and it takes a certain amount of commitment because you have to put the time into practice. And I enjoy our lessons as well, Sherry. So it's something to look forward to. It's something to grow from. It's something to create from. And the other thing I find with adults that I love, we get to a point where we're so afraid to make mistakes. And so I always remind my adult students especially, it's like, it's okay, you can make a mistake. You can do it. We grow and we learn from those mistakes. So that's one of the fun parts.
And Allegra, I hadn't told you this story for a long time. And then I did tell you a while ago how your music just really touched me in such a way. And I think musicians just don't always know, probably most often don't know how their music, impacts and affects, other people. And it was a time when I was dealing with grief and was really struggling and just feeling just kind of emotionally raw. And when I heard you play, I just felt an opening, and a peace and just a therapy, for me, in my life. And have other students or other listeners told you about experiences that they have had with your music?
Yeah, I mean, that's a very special story. And, for me, I don't think many other stories are going to beat that. I think as a musician, our job is to open up a conversation. Our job is to communicate. And as Christians, they will know we are Christians by our love,
right,
not by what we profess, but primarily what we do. And I think sharing music, and regardless of if you know what's happening or not, just having the chance to speak to someone on that level, to open up some emotion, to have some kind of release, and then the potential to have a conversation afterward, I think it's brought us closer together.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I've seen that in the hospitals many times as well. I'm playing in a ward, and maybe patients can't come out because they're sick and are confined to their bed space, but within the staff, I had a chance to talk to one of the women who was cleaning linens, and she stopped, and she was Tibetan, and she started telling me about the Tibetan instruments she plays, and her daughter sings, and how excited she was. So it's just a chance to open up that dialogue, and you never know what's going to happen.
That's right.
But sharing music is really, in a broad sense, sharing love, I think.
Allegra, we're going to be able to listen to a little bit of music that you play, and this is the type of music that you play in the cancer ward. Allegra, thank you for being with us.
Thank
Barry
you, Sherry.
and Ross.
You're welcome.
I'm Cheryl McGreeny. We're different drummers and the Greater Chicago Broadcast Ministries. Keep the faith.